part of what triggered it in Britain was there was a famous artist in her 30s who had twins, who chose an abortion, made it into international news, because here I am in Oregon, I'm reading about this. And a month later, she took her own life and left a note saying she wanted to be with her twins. I'm not making judgments about that, but that's what she said in her notes. And it was that that caused the firestorm about what are we doing about screening women for the potential risks that they have when they're really stressed, not supported, and feel like they have no choice. So when they make this choice that I might not want, you have to actually give them more support. Do you follow me? And you make sure they know that. Regardless of what you choose, I'm here for you. And that's part of the creed of all the pregnancy resources with which I'm familiar, is that they reach out to people no matter what choice, and they're not judging them. And if you don't believe that, read Abby Hoffman or Abby Johnson's story, Unplanned. I've got it on my Kindle. I read it on one of these airplane rides I take. And it's very telling. If anything, she is a wonderful person in bending over backwards to do what I'm trying to do today, is to respect people with whom I disagree. If I didn't do that, I couldn't work at OHSU. I'm a minority voice. You follow me? And I want minority voices to be heard. Not necessarily follow lockstep, but at least be heard. And you have a wonderful opportunity now with this group on campus to have that kind of dialogue. One of the things I'm most proud of in the Principles of Clinical Medicine course, which is like the doctoring course at UCLA, and I was co-founder of some 20 years ago, is that we started a controversies in medicine session. And my liberal colleagues, one in public health, didn't want us to do that because he said everybody's made up their mind about abortion. And I said, well, that's a sad commentary on our universities, if that's the case. It's a sad commentary. It's saying people can't change. We're robots. So I hope that today I've been thought-provoking for you. And by the way, some of the controversies that you might want to do, because students can get this in your curriculum, you have to basically advocate for yourselves. They could be on pharmaceutical industries. Is it drug samples a good thing or a bad thing? It could be on end-of-life issues and assisted suicide. It could be on the boundaries of conscientious practice. That's certainly an extant issue in my life. I'm actually somewhat in violation of the Center for Ethics policy because I won't refer to some things that are legal. By the way, before I finish, I want to close with one thing. Think about this. If you were a slave owner in the South, now let's make you the blacksmith, all right? You and I are blacksmith in a small southern town in 1850. And somehow, by the grace of God, we understand the evil of slavery. Somebody comes to us with a slave who's run away and his shackles are damaged. We say to Caleb, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. I know it's your right to have slaves, but I don't want to be a part of that. I can't do it. He throws a hissy fit because, by golly, are you judging me? It's my legal right. You're interfering with my business. But you hold fast, you and I hold fast. That, we're not mad at you, we're not judging you. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I can't be a part of that. I'm sorry. It violates my integrity, my ethics, my beliefs. And then when he finally gives up and he realizes you and I are adamant, then he says, well, is there another blacksmith in town? Where's the closest one that can help me? Will you help me? And I just throw this out for you for food for thought. What would you do? Would you help him? And I believe, as Lincoln does, that nobody has the right to do wrong. And he was talking about slavery. And Toffler's corollary, probably with deference to St. Thomas Aquinas and other deeper thinkers than Dr. Toffler, nobody has the right to help somebody do wrong. You follow me? And I don't help people rob banks. I don't help people get drugs that are illicit. And if I come to the conclusion, whether you do or you don't, I don't know, but you'll have conclusions about some things. Are you going to draw the line and help somebody get a female circumcision in your practice if they come from an ethnic group that believes in that? At some point, I think all of us have boundaries, and recognizing that is the first step to being free and not having somebody else make you into a robot or vending machine. All right, what thoughts have I triggered in your mind? Yeah?
I have a question. Don't you think we have kind of influence whenever you talk to patients, even if you're not going to tell them what they should or shouldn't do? You are a doctor. You feel very strongly on one side.
Yeah.
So given that situation, you're a figure that they respect, sort of fear a little bit. Don't you think they would listen to what you said? If, for example, you gave with the nurse being upset at you, you honestly you think it didn't have any influence over the woman?
No, I do think I have an influence. Thanks. The question is, if I have strong feelings like I do, guilty, right? You're very perceptive. No, it's true. It's true. And I think that's honesty and acknowledging that. And people need to know that. That's why with the group of 4 people coming to me for counseling about the anencephalic, I said up front, I think that 2 patients here, I want you to know my bias. You can go to other doctors who don't have that bias. That's fine. You need to know that. But then I think one of my jobs is to be giving informed consent and transparency and do my best to do what I believe is right for the woman. And then accept the fact that a lot of people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. Maybe even the majority. But that's not my... I believe in free will and choice. I'm for choice. But I believe that women, in some cases, like Frederica Matthews Green found out when she flipped from so-called pro-choice to so-called pro-life, she was converted and convicted that women were not having choice, and how do you expand that choice for them? To illustrate this is I just acknowledged my bias, didn't I? If 50 people go into Planned Parenthood, 49 of them get abortion, 1 gets an adoption. If they have an ultrasound done, which is often a requirement now in some states, before you do an abortion, do they let the woman see it? Abby Johnson says they don't. She ran one of the award-winning centers in Texas and was the clinic director for 8 years, and that's her testimony. On the other hand, when I see my pregnant patients in my office, they all want to see. And in fact, there's studies, peer-reviewed literature, of how many women, not all, because I talked to John Russell on the way up here, and he and his wife haven't had an ultrasound, but most women, 98% of them, want an ultrasound. Why? They want baby pictures. And even more so, are you all familiar with 4D ultrasound? What's 4D ultrasound? It's where you have software that actually, just like a CT scan or MRI, actually creates the sepia image, 3-dimensional image of a baby moving in the womb, and you can actually argue about who he looks like or she looks like in the family. Is it more like the mother's side of... That's how clear it is. It's not a fuzzy gray image. And so my son fooled his wife in a kind way, the gift for her birthday when she was pregnant, and said his father, that'd be me, had recommended I get another ultrasound, which I didn't. But so he's telling his white lie because he wants to surprise her with a 4D ultrasound, and they took about 40 images of our unborn grandchild at that time. This is number 7 in my life. 8th is on the way in Wichita, Kansas, with a different daughter. But the bottom line is, this was a gift to her to be able to get a little preview of what the baby was going to look like. So the image has an impact on people's choices. And so we're supposed to be transparent. We're supposed to be given informed consent. I've shared my bias. I know that a woman seeing those images may have a different choice. That's true. I know that. But wouldn't it be worse if she thought it was a blob of tissue and then found out years later when she went through the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry and saw these perfectly formed 10-week-old humans, that all the parts are there, all the organogenesis has occurred by 10 weeks. The baby's heartbeat, I can see an ultrasound in my office at 42 days. Shouldn't she be told the truth? And then I respect the choice she makes. It's a great question. Thank you. What other questions? Yeah.
I'm curious. So, with your belief, where does that come in legally? What kind of things do you think? That's what I'm really curious about. You obviously respect people's choices, but what choices do you think should be available?
Well, I'm in the Democrat. The question is, okay, so with my beliefs, what choices do I think should be available? And we live in a pluralistic society where I have colleagues who are 180 degrees opposite of me, and there's actually the majority are there. So I believe that we ought to have choice. We ought to be able to have dialogue and either convert hearts away from things we don't agree on. Some things are very, very deeply seated, and we think this is the worst issue, and it is probably one of the worst in our lifetime, right? You could argue about embryonic stem cells, you could argue about assisted suicide, euthanasia, right? But this is right up there at the top. I agree, we're in agreement. Well, we felt that way about slavery at one time, and in our country, 600,000 people had to die over that issue, and a president had to be shot because of the passions that felt. And now we actually have pretty good equanimity to the point where we have, thankfully, a black president. We've gone from absolutely oppressing people to revering them in a way that celebrates their unique gifts. And so I believe in choice. I believe in trying to convert hearts. I am not a vending machine, and I don't want you to be. And if you really believe, after you study the issue and look at beyond the sound bites, that abortion is a gift to women, we're in America, that can be your calling to promote that. And that's the way it is. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, like what the ultimate goal is. So in your case, your ultimate goal, when you say America, is it that people are just at a place where they wouldn't desire to have one? Or is that what the ultimate?
Well, if you read Frederica Matthews Green, or you read Forbidden Grief in the focus groups of women, that's exactly what they want. There's only 1 out of 20 women that don't regret that choice and regret the fact that they weren't supported. So that's the data. Now, again, I'm not looking for Unispeak, all of us to have the same faith or no faith. But I am interested in sharing the facts. I know it's getting close to the end. If you all got any other questions, I'd be glad to take a shot at it, or we'll call it quits and give you 5 minutes to go. Yes?
Just a quick question. What's the risk of dying of someone who is initially about to get an abortion, but she changes her mind?
So the question is, what's the risk of dying if someone's about to get an abortion and she changes her mind? It depends on the issue. Some of them, if you haven't actually had anything done to you, there's zero risk of stopping. You can even have, there's articles about the seaweed they put in, the alginate that swells with the mucus and the moisture and dilates gradually the cervix over several days. And you can even forgo that even after that happens. And I passed that article around some 20 years ago to the OB/GYN colleagues and all, so that they don't have a sense of you can't change your mind. Again, I'm open to people changing their minds. And yet, I really believe that this dialogue hasn't occurred so that people on both sides of the fence recognize that. They really do have a bias and perhaps haven't been open. Good question. Andrea, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate your attention and your respect for me with my minority views. All right?